Hey everyone, Knox here with the American Suppressor Association, and today we've got a legislative update about New Mexico, specifically Senate Bill 90, which was just introduced this session. We're joined today by one of our longtime friends, Tara Riley Mitcha. Tara, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Knox. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for chatting with us. And sorry that we keep having to work together in defensive circumstances. It was a lot more fun when we were working in Texas and Louisiana together, passing pro suppressor legislation out there. Yeah, so we've got Senate Bill 90. Can you give us a brief overview of what this bill seeks to do?
Sure. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the lobbyist for the National Rifle Association that handles Texas and New Mexico and have worked with Knox for a long time. I'm currently in Santa Fe, tracking all the gun control bills that the governor is pushing out here. And a bill that she gave an executive message to, making it germane for debate during the 30-day budget session, is Senate Bill 90. And that places, it's a California style approach to taxing firearm, ammunition, suppressor, and firearm precursor part sales. 11% excise tax, again, modeled after California. So that was filed this week, made germane to the session by an executive message from the governor. And I knew that out here, the definition of firearm includes suppressors. So I got in touch with Knox and said, here we go again. We need to pay attention to this bill for that reason.
Yep. No, and can't tell you how much we appreciate you for reaching out to us on that. Last year, obviously, we were out there with you in Santa Fe, trying to stop the attempt to outright ban suppressors as part of a big AR ban package. Thankfully, we defeated that together. But this one's different. This is them really coming at us from the sides, right?
Right. It's again taking a lead from Governor Gavin Newsom in California and trying to replicate a problematic California style law here in New Mexico. Uh, it's a tax that would be felt by every gun owner in the state. You look at some of the other items that are being pushed out here in the 30-day session. There's a raise the age bill. There's a waiting period bill. There's firearms industry lawsuit bill. But this is one of those bills that affects everyone in the industry, every gun purchaser, anyone who purchases ammunition or wants to get a suppressor through NFA. It would tax everyone at 11%.
Yeah, and these are items that are all universally taxed. With firearms and ammunition, those are taxed at either a 10 or 11% rate through the federal Pittman-Robertson Act. Suppressors are obviously taxed at a $200 per item rate through the National Firearms Act. So levying an additional tax is really just trying to create another hoop and another burden for people to exercise their Second Amendment right. So, Tara, explain to us a little bit about what the practical impact of this legislation will be on the average citizen in New Mexico.
Yeah, so Knox, New Mexico is a very poor state. So not only is it a tax on exercising a constitutional right, it's a tax that disproportionately impacts the poorest New Mexicans who may find themselves living in a high crime area. Albuquerque it has been experiencing a crime crisis for 4 or 5 years straight now. And there are a lot of people who have become new gun owners, engaging in all those steps in the personal protection process that I outlined. If they live in the poorest part of Albuquerque, which could also be the highest crime rate section of the city, this tax is going to hit them the hardest. Uh, for your average New Mexico citizen, it's going to cost more for them to practice, to shoot recreationally, to hunt, to shoot competitively. I mean, it's going to affect everybody just in different proportions.
Yeah, no, you raise a strong point that it really does disproportionately penalize the poorest folks whose only crime is wanting to protect themselves and their family. Um, that's it's pretty wild how far these anti-gunners will go to try and restrict an enumerated constitutional right. Can you imagine if folks were to propose legislation that would seek to tax the exercising of any other constitutional right, right? Be it press or freedom of religion or you know anything. Could you ever see a world in which that occurred in today's era?
Right. If you took this concept and applied it to anything the progressive left prioritizes, there would be all kinds of hue and cry out here about it. So yeah, I mean, this I see it as a view. If you can't restrict or ban gun ownership, you're going to find avenues to discourage it if you're part of the progressive left that ultimately wants to ban gun ownership. So this is a step in the direction of restricting or prohibiting by discouraging and pricing out some people from exercising that right.
Absolutely. And this is something that, I know if this bill were to get enacted and become law, this is something that ASA would certainly try and fight in the courts. I'd imagine it's something that the NRA would be right there immediately challenging in the courts as well. Is there any world in which legislation like this could be ruled constitutional?
I can't imagine. I guess we'll see what happens with California's tax. Again, this bill is modeled after them. I would expect some pro Second Amendment organization, NRA or another, to at least consider filing litigation if this were to pass. That's not my call to make. That's our in-house lawyers' decision, but I can't imagine if this were to pass it going unchallenged by the Second Amendment community in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. And to provide a little bit of context for the California legislation, last year, California passed and enacted a bill called the Firearm and Ammunition Tax that levied a 11% tax on the sale of just that, firearms and ammunition. ASA didn't get involved because California is one of the 8 states where suppressors are prohibited, so it did not impact suppressors. And we are, obviously a very myopically focused organization that starts and finishes with impacts on suppressors. This bill is different in that it does, and New Mexico is one of those states where not only are suppressors able to be owned, but that's called out in this particular legislation to add an additional tax on top of the $200 tax that's already been levied on suppressors through the National Firearms Act. In California, the only reason that that hasn't been challenged yet in the courts is because that doesn't take effect until July 1st of 2024. So there was a pretty long lag time between when that was signed into law and when it becomes law. Otherwise, that would have almost certainly been something that had been filed in by multiple organizations. It's a bit of a hurry up and wait situation. We might find it that if New Mexico were to pass this legislation, this could be the first state where it gets challenged, which would be an interesting turn of events. So it looks like the bill's been double referred, so referred to 2 different committees, the Senate Finance Committee and the Senate Tax, Business, and Transportation Committee. What do you know about those two?
So that's typically, those aren't committees that we typically deal with. Gun control bills are typically filed to some other committees that deal with a broad range of issues. Since this is a tax, it's gone to tax and then finance. It's not uncommon for bills to receive 2 referrals in New Mexico. That's kind of standard. In a 30-day session, 2 referrals means a lot more because session is so short and condensed. There's less time to get through more issues. So, those committees are somewhat new to gun owners. We do have some Republican and a few Democratic allies on those committees. We'll see whether the members of those committees decide to stand with gun owners and sportsmen, or whether they decide to stand with Governor Lujan Grisham, who, as I said, messaged this bill to make it germane to this session. So, we'll be notifying our members when they get set for hearings, and I'll let you know as well when they get set for hearings. But yeah, new committees, fresh faces. um, and I think we'll see if we can get them stopped in either of those two committees.
Fun times, never a dull moment. Um, for the folks that are watching this video, what can they do to help?
Well, they can start calling the members of those two committees. We'll be alerting, as I said, our membership and posting information about these committee hearings on the NRA ILA website when they get set for a hearing. Um, in the meantime, if members want to start contacting the Senate Tax Committee and the Senate Finance Committee, they can go to the New Mexico Legislative website, nmleigs, as in sam.gov, and click on committees, and you'll find the makeup of those committees and the contact information for those lawmakers there, and urge them to oppose this tax on exercising a constitutional right. And that's what they can start doing now in advance of a committee hearing.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that in the notes for this particular video that we've got a link to both of those committee members. That we've got all the relevant phone numbers. I'll add a link to the NRA ILA Take Action Form, and then we'll have a link for the ASA's Take Action Form as well, where you just enter your information, click enter, and it will auto generate a letter that you can tweak if you'd like, but you certainly don't have to. Let's get loud on this. Let's defeat this bill. And for those of you who, many of whom are watching, are obviously interested in more than just suppressors. Take action on all the other bills that are being floated by the anti-gunners in New Mexico. There's no shortage of them, and if we don't unite and work together on this stuff, we're going to lose ground, and we might lose it forever.
I would agree. We need to make our voices heard. We're kind of swimming upstream here in New Mexico, but I think if we all speak with a unified voice, and again, don't wait for the courts and lawsuits to settle the score on these bills. We need to get them taken care of here and now in the legislature in the next, I think it is 26 days.
Man, yeah. At time of filming, we're a little under a month between now and February 15th when they go sine die. Let's get after this. And Tara, as always, let us know what we can do to help. It is truly a pleasure to work with you, and I look forward to the next time that we get to work together on happier terms. But we're excited to get out there and try and help in this fight.
Well, thank you for all your work, Knox. You do an amazing job for your association, and hopefully you won't have to make a trip out here, but if you do, yeah, we'll figure out how to get this nailed down.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks so much, Tara.
Thank you.